Welcome to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Fabian motherfucking Ojeda, and I don't know shit, but that's okay. All right, let's get this shit started. Thank you, everybody, for listening to the Ignorance is Strength podcast. Hope you all enjoyed our previous episode with musician Henry K. Check him out if you haven't already. Definitely want him to, experience some success, so support if you can. But I'm back today with a brand new guest. I want to welcome to the podcast a fellow podcaster for the very first time, Mr. Nick Tabor. How you doing, Nick?
Hey, man, I'm good, baby. And how are you, dude? Good to hear from you.
Definitely, man. Definitely doing well as well. Where are you joining us from today?
I'm from Fall River, Massachusetts, man.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So we have, I seem to have a lot of people from the other side of the country all the time. So that's good, but definitely wanted to, talk to you. And I know you are the co-host of the Movie Theater Time Machine. Is that right?
Yes, sir. We are. Yes.
Okay. So that's your podcast. How often do you do that?
We do it every week. We've been going straight. We're almost at our 6th year anniversary.
Whoa.
Yeah, we're really close. We're really, really good. So it's about a month and a half will be 6 years, and we're just over 300 episodes right now.
Holy crap. All right. So that's kind of one of the questions I wanted to get into was, how long you've been doing this, because, for a lot of people, I think, and myself included, this whole lockdown pandemic thing, that was the birth of our podcasts, that's all really you could do at some point is just sit there and listen to podcasts, And
I mean, it was the time that I personally consumed a lot of podcasts myself. And I mean, Spotify looked at me and was like, they do the yearly wrap up, 2020, the yearly wrap up. I looked at my phone and it's like, did you do anything this year? No, sir. No, I did not do it, Spotify. No, it's like how many hours you spent? All the hours. Spent all the hours listening to your podcast.
For sure. Yeah. I think a lot of people were in that same boat. But 6 years, that means have been putting into work for a while now. So, before we even get into what your podcast is about, how'd you even get started doing that?
Okay. Yeah. Actually, it's a story I love really telling. I had a friend of mine who was involved with a podcast studio, and we were really good buds and really big movie buffs. So he invited me on his show, and he, jokingly said, "I bet you can't start a podcast and be better than mine." I said, "Okay, fine, I'll do it." And then we joined in, and I really have a super high passion for old Hollywood. And it came from my grandmother, really, who was the really big driving force of it. And we lost her recently this year, but she was, she instilled that in me, and also my sister, my wife, and everybody else. So we really just said, okay, well, we really have fun talking about it. Let's see how far this can go. And I figured maybe we were going to do maybe 20, 30 episodes at first and then see where it petered out. And now it's like, okay, we're almost at episode 310.
Yeah.
That's just kind of like, wait, how are we still doing this? How do we have sponsored now? Mm-hmm. How did this happen? How are we excited to get the next one going? It just kind of blows my mind.
Mm-hmm. And when we talk about podcasts, and a lot of people don't really have much of a theme or whatever. Myself included, I just really like to talk to anybody who has a story to tell. I get you. Yeah. I'm like, I have no idea. I like to talk to cool people with cool stories. That's it. Yeah. So it's just a myriad of different personalities and whatnot, but you have a very specific theme, and the good thing about that is that you have endless content there, right? Because I mean, even as the years go by, and let's say you do this for another 6 years, you have another 6 years worth of content there that you didn't have before, so it's just constantly there. And so does that make things a little bit more manageable, a little easier than like if you kind of had to think up a topic for the week like some other podcasts?
It does get a little easier. I mean, when we first started, for the first few months, we didn't have a theme. at all. I mean, it was a celebration of movies, when it was in theaters, and that's still what it is. But there was one month we just started, really picking Mel Brooks movies and, really going into it and saying, okay, why don't we try to do this? This seems to be a little easier for us. And find even a loose theme. Sometimes it's real easy because it just, there's four of us and we agreed that eat for our birthdays because, we're not really, tangible gift people, we for our birthday months, we pick the theme, pick the movies and inflict it on each other. So it's like 4 out of 12 months of the year. It's pretty easy. And 3 out of the 12, I could just, as long as I show up, I'm good,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm good, but the fourth one, okay, I got to figure something out. Okay, let's do this. But it does get easier over time. But I think, after a little while, we're going to kind of run into it because, streaming culture is, becoming more and more prominent. And I mean, this is a podcast that celebrates when it was like to be in the movies or what it was like to go to the movie theater. And, a lot of them, we don't know what it was like. I mean, because they're out there, the majority of our films we review were well before we were even born. So try to guess and see what was going on. But it's really interesting is, when you get to that point, when you see something like, what was it like in 1942 to watch a movie, to go to the movies? And I'm like, okay, I can't turn to my grandparents and ask that question, but then really try to hypothesize for it. I live in a factory city, or an old factory city. So it's like, okay, how many hours did somebody have to work to pay for a ticket? Or how much did they have to pay for that whole damn night? Okay, they had to work 15 hours to pay for a date night. Shoot, I have to do that too. Dang. Or something else that we need to do. So there's more of it because, and you know what? It also is, there's a lot of endless stuff too, because the history is endless.
Right.
As well, because you have nearly 100 years of popular film. Too. And before it was the reel-to-reel stuff. I mean, eventually what kind of excites me is eventually down in the future, however long we do this, we might be doing stuff today. Or that eventually doing a nostalgic podcast about the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember when Iron Man came out and, Robert Downey Jr. didn't have that great of a past, but now he's pretty cool. Okay, let's figure this out now.
Well, growing up a 90s kid, it's kind of like we're talking about it that way now,
Yeah.
And
right.
so it's kind of crazy now.
Yeah.
So what I gather from what you just said, yes, you're talking about the old movies and everything.
Right.
But you're really kind of giving the experience, right? You're maybe giving a little bit of the history or like what society was like then. So maybe that I'm assuming that's more so what you all touch on as well, not just the movie.
It's a little bit of it. I mean, enforce, our own opinions. And there's also going to be some times where a story comes up like we got to talking in one episode. We reviewed the Kill Bill movies, and I remembered one. I had a really cool experience, but it led to a discussion about how a movie theater experience enhances a movie more than anything. Like we saw Kill Bill 2. Have you seen that?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So the scene where she comes out of the grave. That's I do not remember 10 minutes after that movie because I was laughing so damn hard at what actually happened because, it goes out, she climbs out of the grave, all the lights go down, and I see a woman 6 rows in front of me, look at me, look at the screen. She goes, ooh, she gonna get him. And I'm losing my mind for about that. I physically don't remember. It took till the review to actually pay attention. And I'm like, okay, I got to pull this back and know what happened finally. And it's the whole, Elle Driver and her scene, finally when I came to, I'm like, ooh, they're fighting. Hey, that's cool. You know,
Mhm.
like okay, I have to really do that. It was like getting the experience all over again. And then we go on a tangent about that, about how the movie experience is really outstanding. You know,
Yeah.
that's our deal. You know, that's really ours. But then it goes, we also go into other things like that, like the about a year-ish ago, or about a year and a half ago, we had a chance we did a whole retrospective on Jimmy Stewart's career for a month.
Okay.
We had the opportunity to interview the curator of the Jimmy Stewart Museum.
Hmm.
Happened to reach out and said, just on that luck chance, hey, do you want to appear on our podcast? I think this would be really good to promote.
Mhm.
Sure, I'll do it.
Huh.
Yeah, cool. All right. Let's do that. Awesome. And then really dive deep into somebody who has spent the majority of their life, working in the museum, figuring out what it is, and how do you promote somebody who has been, for, let's be honest, really 50 years past his heyday.
Yeah.
In reality, how do you still keep that vibrant? What do you do? And then it was super interesting. That was also in the middle, like it was, the pandemic stuff was still going on, but that was, I'm like, okay, how are we going to do that? Because she's like, you all got freestanding tickets to Indiana, Pennsylvania. Come on down. I'm like, cool, and then on the sideline, she's like, well, maybe you can record an episode in our theater. I'm like,
Oh.
nope. All right, cool. Let's do that. But I'm like, how are we even going to logistically get there?
Mhm.
It'll be in time, but there's more to it, and it really depends upon it because what's going on, because the four of us have incredibly unique perspectives.
Right.
Also, like the focus of the show, at least for me, has always been how can I make the other three laugh? And there's like, how can we do this to really, and then in turn, where I imagine somebody who's, they listen to it while they're folding laundry, they're driving to work, or, listening to it at work. We've gotten emails about that. Like, hey, I listened to you guys at work. I haven't been caught yet, but thank you for getting me through the day.
You're right.
You're welcome.
And so I think, that really adds to it, the whole, four-man format. I think, for as far as, for my podcast, I never wanted to do it as just like somebody who talks to themselves for, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. I think that's very boring. Nobody wants to hear one person, rant on and on. I mean, I guess some people like that. I mean, that's just format for some people, but for me, I wouldn't be able to do it. It wouldn't be any fun. I like this format where I interview people because at least we're interacting. The most fun I have, right, though, is after your episode airs, there'll be another episode after that. Every 10 episodes, I have what I call the shit show. And it's just my friends and I, the four of us just, talking about anything and everything. And like you mentioned with your friends, right, trying to make each other laugh, because that interaction, and it doesn't even matter what the content is, right? That interaction, when you're listening, kind of like you're a fly on the wall, right? Like you mentioned, it kind of gets people through their day. They laugh themselves. It's a stress reliever. You kind of get lost in it. So that format definitely, works for a lot of people. And I think for what I'm hearing for you, it really it makes things a lot better.
Right. I mean, one of my favorite memes that kind of came by night, it's a really funny podcasting meme, is there's a picture of a guy next to a poster eating cereal, and it's a poster of everybody laughing, and he's eating cereal looking like he's laughing too. And it's the caption of it is what it's like when I'm listening to a podcast. Like that is just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It encompasses it incredibly well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Now, just I wanted to ask, my podcast, although I do record on Zoom and we do the video, it's I only release audio, right? Do you do an audio podcast or do you do like a video podcast as well?
We actually just started incorporating some video.
Okay.
And I could say this one now because we just actually finished it this morning, is we recorded a Christmas episode. We had an interview with Larry Hankin.
Yeah, I talked to him. Yeah. Very, very, very good. Yeah. It's got so
Hysterical.
many stories. Yeah.
Oh, like hysterical. Like well, we talked to our friend Steve, who helped set this up, and he said, all he is just a, he's the easy, what did he say? The easiest fishing expedition you're ever going to go on, because all you got to do is cast it and he'll bite. He'll bite. I mean, and we just listened to his stories and just chatted along, and I mean, he was great. But we have a video of that's going to go on our YouTube page. And on our YouTube page right now, we had our full recording, the Zoom recording of Brad when we interviewed Brad Jones. And, the Cinema Snob. And that was like, okay, we've got to do this, which also prolonged it because we are working on other people to interview and do that. We're going to be reviewing the movie Prancer, which we had some reach out, and I spoke with the director of the movie, and he wants to do the movie with us.
Nice.
Review it. So that's also going to be on our YouTube page. But all of it is audio, and it's everywhere where you could see a podcast. Here at least. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, definitely. When you're reviewing these movies, it sounds like you have a bit of homework, right? You got to watch the movie. You got to go back and watch it. I mean, because you can, you always go off of, your memories and everything like that. Yeah. But when you want to talk specifics, you're going to be like, I don't quite remember that, right? So you have to go and watch it. What's that process like for you all? I mean, does everybody's like, okay, I watched it, or is there times when maybe one of you all, just didn't watch it or anything like that?
It's rare, yes. But I mean, most of us really get on to watching it every Friday night. We have a private text chat that we go through while we're watching it. Like, what the hell was that? Where we do that, and that gets brought up quite a bit. And we have that occasionally. Somebody really didn't see it, or it didn't really come up for them. Where we really have to dig, because one of the rules is if it's on streaming and somebody can see it somehow, at least we can do that. But we really just make a date night out of it, at least for my wife and I, who have that. So we'll order some food and just chill on the couch for a while the movie's playing, and see what happens.
Yeah. And you're right. That doesn't have to be kind of like a thing where it's like, it's work, it's labor, right? It's movies. It's movies. It's something fun.
If it felt like a job, I wouldn't do it.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be doing it at all. Yeah.
And that kind of leads me to my next question, because on my end, I like podcasting. I think it's fun. But I never had any ambition to make it anything other than just a hobby. To me, it's just like, hey, I like doing it. I like putting the conversations out there. People want it, at least the people that I've talked to, they enjoy it. For you, because you've been doing it for a long time, right? Do you have any aspirations of making this some like a lucrative kind of thing where I know you mentioned sponsorship and I want to hear about that as well, but what are your goals with this?
I mean, really, what I personally want to see it do is I want to see this really let out a lot of good in the world. I mean, we don't make a ton of money on it at all. Matter of fact, this year we're kind of losing a little bit of money because we had to replace some of the equipment. But for it, I mean, if we are able to pay our rent, through it, I think I would be very happy with that, or at least some of the rent to offset it. Eventually, store some away. So, my wife and I and our co-host can, all of us can get our own houses. That'd be great, but I know that's unrealistic, so, I mean, I'd settle for somewhere between, paying our groceries and, paying our groceries and paying our rent, some ways. I think that'd be great.
Right now, maybe it covers your DoorDash.
Yeah, whatever covers our DoorDash. Yeah. If it covers DoorDash, like, okay, fine. Hey, I have something for Movie Theater Time Machine. Hey, dude. Thanks for subscribing. Here you go.
You mentioned sponsorship, right? Talk to me about that.
We had a couple of really good ones. So, I mean, we've always been extremely positive and extremely relationship positive. So we've had a sponsorship with Adam and Eve for probably about 2 years now. They've been really super good to us. And I mean, it's also with the communities that come out beyond that. A lot of people oddly really love classic movies. Like, really go through that. They're like, this is really a good thing. Yeah, I've loved that too. I'm like, okay, cool. That's really good. And we've had a sponsorship with Simon and Schuster. And I mean, that's come up with the book publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
That's come up for a while. We had a month that was really a super cool one. They reached out to us and they said, we have this we have this author who we'd like you to interview. I'm like, okay, fine. Like it's a biography on an actor, Cary Grant. I'm like, ooh, all right, let's do that. So, we did that. They kind of bartered a little bit at first. And we had a few other books that we did and interviewed the artist. So it was really nice.
Mm-hmm.
But, it also became like, we'll send you advanced copies of the Cary Grant biography.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as I said, the whole thing was really, inspired by my grandmother years back. So, I mean, it was a super easy Christmas gift.
Right. Yeah.
That was one of her favorite actors growing up. So I'm like, here's a thick book for you. I was just so happy as hell, when that happened. Thank you, that was also during the lockdowns as well with COVID. So that made a lot of people happy, but a lot of, one of our co-hosts too, actually was really good with that. But Adam and Eve is our big sponsor for a while. We're definitely going to keep doing business because, everything that comes out of it is so good for all of us.
That's, for lack of better phrasing, that's like that online sex shop, right?
It is.
Yeah. I don't know what to call it.
Yeah. No, man, it is what it is, bro. It is what it is, but it's, relationship, marital aids and everything else. I mean, they just kind of fell in our lap. When we were searching for sponsors, and we went through Podcorn. I don't know if you know about that.
No, but I'll look it up.
Yeah, it's an app that helps you find sponsors, and then they reached out to us and said, "Hey, do you want us to sponsor you?" I'm like, "Okay," I'm like, "I don't like a gift to Hearts in the Mouth, man," or it's like unless it was something. So I don't think I would turn down anyone unless it was something like severely political, because then it takes the spirit right out of it,
Yeah, I think, with something like that, I mean, if they're offering and it's like, yeah, why not? If they're offering something, but you're right. Anything like kind of divisive or anything, it's like, nah, forget about it. But there's some scams out there, right? Like if you're on Instagram and stuff like that, and I've experienced it where they want you to, okay, I will, quote unquote sponsor you, right? But you have to buy my product and then you can, start promoting it, and then we'll give you a discount on it. It's like, well, I don't want your product.
Right. I don't want to,
If you want to give it to me, I'll take it, but I'm not gonna buy it and then I'm not getting any money off of it, and all I'm getting is the opportunity to hawk your shit. Like, no, it's just not.
That's what happens. That's what happens for people who are too hungry for it. That's the issue. I mean, I had one podcast that I ended up, changing into another one. It was off of my other side job, was a personal trainer, and I did one for a little while on that. And they said, "Hey, how about you? We sponsor you, sponsored by," and I'm not going to say the name, whoever the product who did it, but we'll send you all this stuff if you give us $100 every month. I'm like, okay, so you want me to just buy your stuff? Because you look at it, you just do the math. I'm like, okay, we're spending $100 a month and we get to promote you, so you really just get free advertising out of it. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that whatsoever, because that's just that's a really shady business.
Yeah. No, I think that's pretty bad. Yeah, but the ones that I kind of mentioned, like that style, I remember was like some kind of jewelry company was one of them.
Yeah.
Where it's like you can just very easily send me one of your cheap pieces of arts and craft jewelry, and even if it's the worst piece of crap ever, if you give it to me for free, I'm going to put it over like it's the greatest thing I've ever seen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the other one was like, it was like this like pubic hair shaver thing, you know. It's kind of like, no, it wasn't Manscaped. That was like,
okay.
and that's why I was like, nah, this is like the Manscaped knockoff, you know, like
okay.
It's like I wouldn't. First of all, they wanted you to buy it, and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna buy it. You know, again, if you give it to me, I'll tell you it's the greatest thing I've ever experienced. I'll send pictures now. I'm just kidding. But you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they're obviously you know, the great value version of Manscaped, and they're trying to charge people. It's like, no, I'm not gonna go for that, you know.
They call it Guy Lawn Care or something like that, right?
No, it was literally called like something balls. I'm like, oh yeah, that's fucking appealing, right? Like, you know, I'm gonna especially with the women listeners, you know, like you want women to listen, right?
Yeah.
You know? But that wasn't gonna fly, man. So I mean, I've not actively looked for sponsors, but I've rejected a lot of kind of these scams and these joke of an offers kind of thing, you know?
Right. Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. We've had several myself. Yeah,
definitely. Now, you know, with your podcast, I think it's safe to, at this point, for me at least, to assume that you are a movie expert, right?
For the most part, yeah. For the most part, yeah.
Because you've seen and reviewed movies for 6 years at this point, and that's really, you know, a lot of people don't do that, you know. And so I want to ask your opinion on this, right? Of all those movies that you've seen and reviewed, right? What's probably one of the like worst movies where I mean, I know when you're reviewing things, you want to be nice, you want to be fair, but you know, you don't want to be cruel just for the sake of being cruel, right? But what's one of the worst piece of crap movies you've ever seen?
I could tell you that one without even thinking, really. It's a movie called Existo. That it is.
Even the title is stupid.
It's just. It's created by the same team who created the Ernest movies. But everyone on this movie, I mean, it has come out years later that everyone in the movie was high on cocaine.
Oh,
because, you know, and it shows. Like Jim Varney is covered head to toe in pancake batter in one scene. Just really, to tell you the truth on that. And it's disjointed. A lot of the characters appeared on the Ernest TV show. They're like, it's like the real version of themselves, like where you see the kid version and then you see what's behind the scenes, and you're like, oh my God, no. Like, it just like meeting Danny DeVito and then meeting Frank Reynolds. Like, just to give you that one was the worst piece of shit, and that was the one that almost made the podcast implode.
Oh.
Like, we went to the studio and I was shaking in my boots, and Dan and Jocelyn, our other co-hosts besides me and my wife, were looking, and they're like, yeah, we almost wanted to quit. Like, it was that distasteful. We had a fifth co-host at that time. He actually did leave. That point, he's like, dude, I'm out. Like, I cannot watch this piece of shit. And then he was done. That was the worst one, and it comes up as examples for anyone who does not like a movie. It almost comes up on every episode lately as, guys, it's not Existo. Like, it's not Existo. They're like, yeah, you're right. Yes, it's not that bad. You know, that's been a kind of a rally cry to the point where we want to say, you know, movie theater time machine reviews bubble. It's not Existo.
That's good.
Like, that's been the worst one ever. Yeah.
Is now when, and I wonder, is it just like that shitty that no one should ever watch it? Or is it one of those things that's such a train wreck that you kind of have to watch it because it's that bad? Or you just going to say, you know what, skip it?
No one should watch this, because you can watch a movie like Tommy Wiseau's The Room is a shitty movie, but it's one of those you're like, oh my God, hey, you got to see this. Like, come here, you got to see this one, and you watch it with groups on a bad movie Monday. I know a lot of podcasts do that. You know, everybody get together and just watch this train wreck, or like any movie made by Neil Breen, you know, or most of those are up on YouTube because no one's defending it. I don't even want to tell you where we got Existo, but it is for free. It is for free. I don't even want to say it, like, because I don't want to have that cloud out there. Like, it was the second to last Jim Varney movie he ever did before he died. Like, you said you're a 90s guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna kill a little bit of childhood for anyone who's like us here, but it kills Slinky the dog for me from Toy Story.
And
you look at that, you're like, God. Like,
yeah,
it's bad.
Slinky the dog's so lovable, so that's crazy.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, I want to know maybe what movie kind of surprised you that was really good, and you thought maybe like, I'm not gonna like this.
There have been a lot of those lately. We recently did a movie review month that just passed at the time of recording this. It was called "Is It Good, Bad, or Bad, Bad?" And we centered it around because we had Brad Jones on the show, and we're like, okay, we're going to review the movie Dolomite, but we reviewed the movie The Air Up There, and that's
Shaq. That's Shaq, right?
No. That's Kazam.
Okay.
No, that's Kazam, but it's like sort of the similar idea, but it's the plot that has been run around so much in the early 90s, and it's a Kevin Bacon movie where he ends up in Africa to try to recruit this guy to go play on college basketball for an NCAA game, team rather. And then, he ends up finding out more about himself and joins this African tribe. And I'm like, and I was looking at it, and, look at the title card alone, and you see, this guy spinning the ball, and, Kevin Bacon looking like, generic white guy. It ends up being, it was like one of those, I'm like, you know what? This really was good. Like, but it's the same plot as Mighty Ducks. Except he's not coaching Pee Wee hockey team. It's, he's going to find this. It's the same damn thing that, has been run amok. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? This really wasn't that bad.
You know what? That was a winning format, though, in the 90s, right? The whole, like, take the underdogs or take the outcasts and make them the champs, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't that bad. I mean, it was one of those, like, okay, he was just, because there was, like, a little worry I had when I read it. I'm like, oh, he's going to be like the white savior complex, the guy who saves the tribe, even though he doesn't know anything about this. I'm like, no, it was done right. It was done exactly right. That one is on Amazon, on Vudu, and it was on Netflix. By the time this is released, it's probably going to be gone because I know they're switching stuff around. I would say really Amazon, it was on there for like $2. Like, it's if you really have a night to kill, watch it. It's really not that bad.
Yeah, I remember like going to the movies and seeing like previews for it, but it never seemed like appealing to me. Yeah. That's why I thought it was Shaq. I'm like, wasn't it Shaq? No, it was some other guy that was really tall, right?
Yeah, it was. I cannot remember the guy's name who did, but it was somebody who actually did play in the NBA who was from Kenya. Who was really actually is known as like a genuinely decent dude. But if my memory's right too, I have to go back and listen to the episode or look it up, but it was released, within the period of 2 weeks, there were like 7 different movies that were released at the same time. And this totally drowned it out in the box office. Like no reason. There's a reason why nobody knew what this movie was. And we even said that multiple times. Like, have you seen this?
Let's see here. It's 1994.
Yep.
And then let me see the cast here.
Yeah.
Charles Gitonga Maina.
That's him. Yeah.
Or no, you know what? Was it Mutombo? The basketball player, Mutombo?
Yeah.
Not remember that name. Yeah. He was like one of the tallest NBA players.
Yeah. No, he was genuinely, like, as we looked up, he's like genuinely a hopeful guy. Like, hey, he's like, I feel probably the best about this, and he's like just happy to be there. It's like, I'm just happy to be there, and that was really that. But it was, I'm actually looking this up too, but the Air Up There was released January 7th, 1994. And if we look up movies released, January 1994. I'm sorry to slow down your show here for a moment.
No problem. Yeah.
I really, really want you to hear this because this is the reason why it got drowned out so quickly. Okay, so yeah, the movies that were released at that particular time were domestic box office. Oh, there we go. So it was up against, just running this list alone. This was the week before and week after.
Mm-hmm.
So Mrs. Doubtfire, The Pelican Brief, Grumpy Old Men, Tombstone, Beethoven's 2, Schindler's List.
Yeah.
House Party 3, Wayne's World 2, The Piano, Three Musketeers, Shortcuts, Geronimo, American Legend, Addams Family Values, and Jurassic Park.
Holy shit. Yeah, it got its ass kicked. Yeah.
Just, like, we call that the UHF effect. Where UHF, the movie that was released by Weird Al Yankovic, and, was a really solid movie, in my opinion, one of the most underrated movies of the 80s, but was released the same day as Back to the Future 2. Like, God. Like, you talk like Shaq. That's like trying to pass Shaq or try to, then Shaq just goes like the ball just knock it out of the way.
Wants it away. Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting. See, so I wouldn't have even thought to look that up. Like, why was it never, as popular as other movies? But after reading that, I'm like, oh man, no, no wonder. Even just immediately, you said Mrs. Doubtfire. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah. Robin Williams alone would sell out a theater like that.
Yeah.
He never had an issue with it. He was always,
And most of those movies you mentioned, I watched in theaters, right? And so that's probably why I saw the ads for that movie, but I'm just like, not interested.
No, but Mrs. Doubtfire had a lot of power behind it. Not only because it was Robin Williams, but it was also right along the time. He had several movies along the time that were coming out. Like, he was riding on high off of Aladdin.
Yeah.
That was released a year and a half before, and that was a movie he didn't even want to be a part of.
I think sometime around there was like Flubber as well, right?
Yeah. So there were so many greats. It's like, hey, Robin Williams in. It's like, I don't even have to know what it is. I'm there. I don't have to know what it is. I mean, I've done that to several movies, and matter of fact, there was a story that I told on a recent show. There's a movie called 9 Months.
Is that with British guy? What's his name? Hugh Grant. There you go. I like that movie. Yeah.
Very good movie. I watched it, and I was a teenager, and I'm like, oh man, and we're like, in the household, we all rallied around Robin Williams. Like, it was the one thing like everybody could agree on. Like, hey, he's a really cool guy. This is great. This is an awesome thing. This is all going to be cool. And then I begged my mom. My mom had the day off. I had the day off from school for some reason. Like, let's go see 9 Months because he's in that movie. Okay. And then I'm watching with my mom, and I remember we got the tickets from the ticket booth, and they're like, and the look on the lady's face, I will never forget. She's like, "You really?" Like, that should have been a clue. Like, we're watching this very awkward romance movie, and he's in maybe 5 scenes out of the whole thing. Okay, we finally saw that, and that drive on the ride home, like, where we couldn't look at each other, because they're talking about, what it's like to conceive, and how it's like how married couples can do this. And meanwhile, I'm probably like 11, 12 years old, just kind of like,
I'm not getting it. Yeah.
Well, no, I was getting it. That's the thing. But I'm with my mom, and my mom is finally realizing that I understand it. I'm like, and she's like, oh crap, I probably have to talk with him.
Well, you know what the thing about that is too, is that movie got funnier as you got older, right? Because I remember watching it, and there's one of the jokes, and Robin Williams is amazing in that. He's super funny, right? He mixes up all his words with Russian and English. And I remember one of the things like, okay, we have to give her an enema. And the nurse is like, an enema? He goes, no, what's the thing? You know, the shot, an epidural. You have to, right? And
epidural. Yes, I understand. I remember one line in here. He's like, okay, we want to look at the point of conception. We want to figure out where it is. No, I was on a business trip. He's like, oh, no, wait, I was looking at monkeys. Oh, sorry. Okay, let's go take a look at your Volvo. You mean Volvo? Yes, that too.
And see, that's what I'm saying. Like back then, maybe I didn't get it. I'm like, what are they talking about? You know, and then I'm like, oh man, that's even funnier now. But definitely kind of an underrated movie too. There, I did want to just I ask before we even close out or anything like that. Okay. It's been a lot of fun, man. Definitely. But what else is there out there you might want to throw out there about your podcast?
So I mean, we're soon to be coming out with the movietheatertimemachine.com website that's going to have everything out there. And right now, you want to email us movietheatertimemachine@gmail.com for correspondence. Also, on our Facebook page, we're kind of revamping our social media. We were pretty big on Twitter right now, but but we kind of set that aside for a little bit for reasons I'm not going to talk about right now.
Sure, yeah.
You all know what's going on, folks. So, I don't have to say that. But what we really want to do, we have this segment at the end of the show is called Fantasy Casting. And we really would love the fans' help on this because where we roll dice, 20-side dice, and if it is above 20, we try to change the rolls and talk about how that would change it for reasons of insanity or reasons of comedy. So, like, for example, few months ago, we for our 300th episode, we reviewed the movie 300. And we rolled the dice, hit I think it was a near perfect 40, and decided to change every character in the movie to Muppets except for Gerard Butler. So the conversation that led from that was just hysterical. So from fan perspective, what we would really love is for you guys to email us and, tell us, like, when we're announcing a movie, what do you want to see? What do you want to see? What you would change and why? And we'll put that in the show. Because we've received emails from people like, we had a kick for a while. We were putting Christopher Walken in weird places, and just, or something or other. I mean, not all of them I can remember right now, but we did some with Christopher Walken, and it was like, okay, hysterical. But then we get a fan request saying, hey, you could put this person in here. How about like when we did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? Danny DeVito, you could replace with Christopher Walken. I'm like, oh crap, that could kind of work. I'm thinking about it. And then we, when we did the bad Karate Kid movie, the next Karate Kid, yeah.
You know what though? I have a feeling in Cobra Kai they're going to probably try to incorporate that somehow.
I really hope they don't. Like, I really hope they do not do that because that was such a travesty. My fantasy casting was the very first scene where you see Mr. Miyagi and the Asian American honors over at Arlington Cemetery, and you see that, and then you see just Miyagi, and the whole story is about him in World War II.
That would have been much better.
I would have loved that
instead of a random girl fighting some guys that aspire to be security guards.
Okay. I'm gonna blow your mind on that. Okay, did you know that was supposed to be the football team?
I did not know that. I thought they just wanted to be security guards.
No, they were supposed to be the football team of that high school. I just went like, how? Like, there was nobody had a football in their hand or something, or no jerseys. I'm like,
nope.
They were supposed to be that, and then the acting, I don't say the acting was horrible, but the writing was god awful. I mean, I could do a whole other podcast. I did too, on that movie alone, but the writing, when you turn it from the first movie of Mr. Miyagi being this helpful man who helps bring the best out of people, and in that movie where he turns into a magical Asian guy, like, oh, Miyagi will help fix this bird. Miyagi will do. Like, what is wrong with you? I prayed. I prayed, and I went and lit a candle for the soul of Pat Morita. Like, just to do that. He looks down and goes, "Oh, somebody's watching that movie. Oh no."
Oh man. Well, I hope to never ever have to watch that movie again. But again, Nick, it's been a lot of fun. I think at some point maybe we need to do a part 2, man.
We will. Absolutely. I appreciate everything you do, man.
For sure. All right. So thank you again. And for everybody listening at home, I appreciate it. Thank you. Fuck you and good night. Subscribe to the Ignorance is Strength podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Like, follow, and share on Facebook and Instagram at Ignorance is Strength Podcast and on Twitter at The Ignorance Pod.